Desperate Measures by VVC. Chapter 7. Latter September. The Quibbler Special Edition to September Edition. Monday, September 16th, 1996. Current count of suitors, 1,612. Favorite music? I don't know, really. I've never really had a chance to listen to music on my own. I've just overheard stuff other people were listening to. The Weird Sisters at the Yule Ball a couple years ago were alright. I saw an opera on the telly once and didn't much care for it, at least not when they were singing. Just the music was nice. Favorite animal? You'd probably think snakes, wouldn't you? But no, I actually like cats. Nice, soft, purring fuzzballs. I'd like to have a miniature diesel one day. The majestic bird once again showed up on Monday morning after all the owls were gone, this time carrying a package instead of a letter. As the bird glided down, Harry stood and held out his arm, whispering the activation words for the ring he wore to summon the black protective glove. The bird took the offered perch and Harry's arm nearly collapsed under the weight. "Goodness," Harry grunted out. "You sure are a heavy one, aren't you, girl?" The bird screeched in irritation, and Harry hurried to say, "I'm sure you're a very lovely specimen of your species and not overweight in any way, and I know I shouldn't have been surprised. The letter did say you weighed 20 pounds. It's just that I didn't really comprehend just how much that was, that's all." The bird chattered at him in what Harry presumed to be forgiveness and shifted its weight to one claw so that it could hold out the other imperiously. Harry ignored his housemate's laughter and his hurried apology to the large bird and untied the package. He set it down beside his plate and picked up a piece of bacon from the serving platter. "Thank you, Nicole," Harry said as the bird accepted the offering. "Will you stay for a moment so I can give you a return letter?" The bird bobbed her head and stuck out her leg again once she was finished ripping apart and eating the bacon slice. Harry tied on a letter that basically said, "Okay, on the hidden identity thing for now. Thanks for the cool ring. You still have to show up here." Then used his right hand to help support his left arm as the bird launched itself into the air. "Nicole! That monster is named Nicole!" Dean exclaimed in disbelief. "What's wrong with Nicole?" Harry asked absently as he examined the glove. He was pleased to find not a single scratch upon it. Well, nothing, I suppose," Dean admitted, shaking his head. "I would have named it something bigger, though, like, say, Godzilla." Harry gave Dean an incredulous look as he banished the glove and retook his seat. "She's named after the last Tsar of Russia, since her species comes from Eastern Russia. And I hardly think Godzilla is a good name for an eagle."
"What is her species, Harry?" Hermione asked curiously. "I've never even seen a picture of a bird like that."
"She's a stellar sea eagle, hatched in Russia but raised in Britain, weighs 20 pounds and eats 1 to 2 pounds of fish a day. Other than a name, that's all I know." Harry hoped to stave off a lengthy question and answer session by giving up all his knowledge right up front. He picked up his package and examined it.
"Why did you read that?"
Hermione asked eagerly.
"Does the library have books on raptors? I've never seen one, but then I've never looked for that topic either."
"I read it in the last letter. I have no idea if our library has books on eagles, though I know they have books on owls," Harry said with a quick look to his friend before untying the string on his package.
"Oh,"
Hermione said thoughtfully before returning to her breakfast. Everyone within hearing distance knew that she would have inventoried any and all books on raptors by the end of the day.
"Why are you opening your present, Harry?"
Parvati asked suddenly. Harry raised an eyebrow and said mildly, "Because I want to."
By now, everyone had come to realize that that tone of voice was a warning to mind their own business.
Parvati blushed and said,
"I wasn't trying to be mosey. I was just wondering why you open things from the suitor when you don't open anything from anybody else until after breakfast. I was just wondering how come, that's all. You don't have to say."
Harry pulled the heavy paper off the package to reveal a book and a letter. He picked up the letter and tapped it against the palm of his left hand, debating whether or not to answer. Finally, he said, "I like the bird." Harry opened and read the letter in the resulting uneasy and confused silence. Seems his housemates didn't see the logic in his statement. There wasn't any, of course. What he had said was the truth. He liked the bird. It was impressive, unusual, and had a great deal more character than a simple post owl. He wondered if that tidbit would make it into the Daily Prophet and cause any suitors to start sending unusual birds. This missive, like the last one, was relatively short. It stated that his suitor had noted Harry's interest in foreign cultures from the article in The Quibbler and thought that Harry might like the enclosed book. D had read it himself and had enjoyed it immensely, his favorite chapters being 15, 22, 36, and 73, on Greece, France, Finland, and Mayan Mexico, respectively. Harry looked at the book in interest, noting the primary title of Wizarding Cultures of the World. The book was quite large, and the table of contents showed 167 different chapters/cultures. A short paragraph above the start of the table of contents proclaimed that each chapter was further subdivided into sections on physical and magical geography, language and culture, arts and sciences, flora and fauna, general history and famous people, sites and events of interests, economics, and current foreign affairs including alliances, trade agreements, boycotts, and treaties. Each chapter was a good 100 pages long or more. Harry, he was impressed.
What book do you have there, Harry?
Hermione asked curiously, straining to see the title. Wizarding Cultures of the World, a brief exploration, revised, expanded edition with pictures, by Edward Montgomery. Harry answered, still flipping through the table of contents in interest.
Really?
Hermione asked in surprise.
I've always wanted that book. It's the absolute best overview on worldwide wizarding cultures that you can buy. It's hideously expensive, though. My parents refuse to buy it for me. They say I'll have to get my own job and use my own money. I will, too, one day.
Really? Harry said, looking up briefly, even more impressed with the gift. I can see why. It's an encyclopedia just by itself. It's nearly 20,000 pages, and it looks like there are full-size pictures every other page.
It actually has more space devoted to pictures, maps, and diagrams than it does to actual text,
Hermione said excitedly.
That's part of why it's so expensive. Even the non-picture version is expensive, though. This past summer, the two versions were going for 80 and 200 galleons each.
Really? Harry said again, eyebrows climbing high as he regarded the book in his hands.
Oh, yes! It's a wonderful book! We don't have one here at Hogwarts, though. Madame Pince says it's too expensive to risk on students that don't appreciate it. Are you going to read it? Can I read it with you?
Hermione asked eagerly, practically bouncing in her seat at the prospect of maybe having access to one of her dream tomes. Harry smirked at Hermione and said, Yes, I plan on reading it. If we're somewhere convenient, I suppose I don't mind you reading it with me, as long as you don't mind reading at my pace. Hermione nodded quickly, and Harry laughed at his friend's antics. Do you know what kind of spells it has on it? Harry asked in curiosity. It's got to have some kind of shrinking and weightless spells on it to only be the size of a regular book.
Hermione nodded again. Yes, that's it exactly. There's a featherweight spell on it, and the pages are spelled to be full thickness only if they're exposed to light. Otherwise, they're as thin as onion skin. Plus, it has general preservation spells on it, as well as anti-tear spells on the pages.
Really? Harry said once again, looking in fascination at his new book. That was some fancy spell work. The more he learned about the book, the more impressed he became. He had to hand it to Draco. He was obviously well-versed in the concept of expensive, but understated. The Falconer's Ring, Harry had discovered via the gossip of the Daily Prophet, was valued at around 50 galleons, and that was just for the enchantments. Lavender had told him that the workmanship of his ring likely doubled its value, and if it hadn't been for Hermione, he would never have known the value of the book he now held. He wondered if this was purposeful on Draco's part, or if it were actually a part of the other boy's true persona. Time would tell, he supposed. He was just grateful that Draco hadn't sent him any foodstuffs or related paraphernalia. He hadn't lied when he said he liked green tea and strawberry and banana petriffle, but he couldn't even guess how long it was going to take to go through the 100 plus boxes of green tea he had received as gifts in the past week. And he was handing the dessert cookbooks off to the Hogwarts house elves as soon as he got them. The little beings were drowning the kitchen in tears. They were so delighted. Harry, however, was decidedly annoyed that his suitors had focused on the little blurb it was providing with the official count and not the content of the original interview. He had diligently noted a negative tick mark in each of the offending gift giver's files. Didn't these people have any creativity? The Quibbler Special Flyer, Monday, September 23rd, 1996. Current count of suitors, 2,291. Favorite color, green. Slytherin green, actually, and isn't that funny since I'm in Gryffindor? Red is my second favorite, though. Then black, white, purple, and blue. I don't like browns or oranges. Yellow and gray are alright. Favorite season, spring. I really love watching the land come alive with color once again. All the different flowers and the new leaves on the trees. The following Monday found Harry laughing out loud in bright amusement. This week's gift from D was 4 very nice shirts in deep shades of varying colors. He had been wondering just how long it was going to take Malfoy to address his wardrobe. Harry anticipated that he would be getting clothes for at least the next month. Considering the sorry state of his wardrobe, he was looking forward to it. What did you get? Parvati asked curiously. Some nice shirts, Harry said after a small pause. His housemates were helping him gather his mail every morning, so he figured they deserved some bits of inside information. For as long as it didn't get spread through the gossip mill, at any rate. Going to dress fancy now, Potter? Ron's voice sneered from 4 seats to the left. Harry clenched a hand, but answered calmly, I'll dress as I dress, Ron. But yes, I'll quite likely wear these shirts. I like them. To good force now, are you? Going to join the prissy purebloods? Ron jeered. The look on his face, one he likely thought was haughty, but actually just showcased his ugly jealousy. They won't you know, with you being a half-blood and all, but that... Ow! Harry ground his teeth, but was resolute about not snapping back. He needed to keep his temper. Actually, Ron, I am considered a pureblood. I only have Veela and wizard genes, after all. And no, I don't think I'm going to become prissy. That's not in my nature. That's what you say now, Ron said angrily as he fended off Seamus's elbow. Just wait. Ow! Stop kicking me! You shut your mouth, Ronald Weasley! Hermione screeched. What is wrong with you? Harry used one of his mother's favorite calming techniques as he listened to Hermione yell at Ron about abandoning your friends and harassing people for no reason. Clench toes. Count to 5. Stretch toes. Count to 5. Repeat. Repeat. She liked it because the little exercise could be done invisibly. Nobody would see that you were anything but perfectly calm and in control. He liked it for the same reason. Plus, it kept him from calling up his fireballs if he concentrated on his feet instead of his hands. He wriggled one of his hands into the box of shirts and stroked the dark green satin shirt that had been on top. This, too, helped calm him, and he tuned out Ron's spiteful words. Surprisingly, the shirts from Draco were the first gift of clothing he had yet received. He had expected clothing, mainly shirts and sweaters, would be a popular gift, as it would take little effort to find something both suitable and nice. Maybe they were afraid they would offend his sense of style? He decided to wear a couple of the shirts over the weekend. Maybe he'd wear some of the jewelry he had received, too. He would probably start getting a lot more clothing if he did that, though. After all, whatever he wore would likely be reported post-haste to the Daily Prophet or Witch Weekly or any number of gossip columns. But gossip columns or no, it was about time he started publicly showing his preference in gifts. And plus, he really could use a new wardrobe. Might as well let his suitors fill it out for him. He'd be able to get to the jewelry easily now, too. One of his suitors, Ian Cadwigan, a Welsh wizard half a dozen years older than Harry, had gotten himself on Harry's list of favorite suitors when he sent his letter of intent with the very thoughtful gift of a jewelry box. Ian had stated that he figured Harry was receiving an unwieldy amount of jewelry and hoped that the box, with space-expanded compartments with rotating hooks for large collections, would help Harry organize those pieces he intended on keeping. The box was a deep polished burgundy with an inlaid starburst design of lighter wood. It was pretty, in a masculine sort of way. It would also hold 100 each of rings, cloak pins, hat pins, and charm pendants, 200 chains, easily holds chains up to 1 meter long, and a total of 50 torques and bangle-style bracelets. Special flat compartment for those large pieces. In short, it was perfect. He was going to ask Lavender to help him this week to fill it up with everything he'd received to date. Ian wasn't the only suitor to be added to the favorites list last week. Vincenzo Salieri from Italy and John Smith, yes, that was his real name, blame his parents, from America had both sent him 500 marble capacity organizers for the music marbles they anticipated he would be receiving as a result of last week's blurb. Let it not be said that they weren't quite correct in their presumptions. Harry had stopped counting the number of music marbles he had received after the first 200 that had arrived the first day. While he did appreciate the music, those suitors had received negative marks in their files, just like the suitors who had sent tea and cookbooks. There was minimal thought behind a gift derived directly from one of the blurbs in the Quibbler. The marble organizers, however, just like the jewelry box, may have been inspired by the blurbs, but also showed that the suitor had extrapolated the likely outcome of said blurb and sent an appropriate gift that would be useful to Harry. Those suitors who had sent books on measles had, for the same reason, also received negative marks. Well, except for one. Su Chin had sent the book Purring Pets, which, while it did include entries on measles, full-size and miniature, also included entries on every pet amiable creature that purred. And in the magical world, that was of a far greater variety than simply the cat family. The book was interesting and creative, and while Harry had no intention of reading it anytime soon, he did give Su Chin positive marks, though didn't add him to the favorites list. This week, Harry figured he would be inundated with green things and spring-related items, although he'd probably still get music marbles and measle-related items. After all, he was still getting green tea and dessert books. The Quibbler Special Flyer, Monday, September 30th, 1996. Current count of suitors, 2,902. Favorite holiday, New Year's Eve. I like Yule just fine, but it's really the start of a new year that I like best. Making it in one piece to the start of a new year is a hopeful sign for me, you know? Something that says maybe this next year will be better than the last. I feel the same way on my birthday. Favorite writer. Well, right now, I'd have to say Amber Montgomery. I couldn't say overall, though. This is actually the first time I've had a chance to read anything other than what I absolutely needed to. 4 pairs of trousers came with the expected letter, and Harry grinned as he read about how Dee had first started learning about clothes. It seemed Dee's great-grandmother had taken exception to the fabric and style of a pair of pants he'd chosen to wear to tea one afternoon and decided that Dee was, at the age of 4, quite in need of clothing lessons. To this day, Dee fully remembered in horrified amusement that first lesson on appropriate trousers, and although he had grown to have an honest interest in fashion, he continued to be, in all ways, overshadowed in that venue by his great-grandmother. Harry snickered and wondered just what this woman would be like in person. Dee described his great-grandmother in loving detail, claiming that while she was very affectionate and supportive, that one just did not cross her. She was the matriarch of the family and wielded that power ruthlessly if necessary. She sounded like a strong, fascinating woman. She would have to be if she was able to keep Draco Malfoy in line. "What's so funny, Harry?" asked Ginny from 2 seats over. Harry looked over to the girl and stared at her in silent surprise, and it wasn't the only one to do so. This was the first time since the welcoming feast that Ginny had said anything to him at all. He much preferred her silent treatment to the snide comments of her brother, but still. Ginny blushed bright red at the shocked faces of her housemates. I know I haven't been the best of friends lately. I just wasn't sure how to react, that's all," she said in embarrassment. Harry remained silent and staring. Just how was he supposed to handle this? Forgive her? Argue with her? Tell her to bugger off? Ginny took the silence for permission to continue explaining herself. "I really thought that I was over the crush I had on you all those years, but when you said in that interview that you wanted a man..." Ginny chewed her lower lip for a moment before continuing. "Well, I was really hurt." Harry raised his eyebrows at that last statement. Hurt? It wasn't as if he had been leading her on or anything. "I know it's stupid," Ginny said with an annoyed scowl. "That's why I've been keeping my mouth shut. I've been working through all those childish feelings and trying to figure out how to still be your friend. I think I've managed it, finally." Ginny paused for a moment, then said sincerely, "I'm sorry for hurting you." Harry stared at the girl for a moment, evaluating her speech, and then said, "Something in the letter." "What?" Ginny asked in confusion. "What was funny?" Harry said. "It was something in the letter." Ginny grinned, understanding that Harry had decided to forgive her, at least conditionally. "Oh, I don't suppose you'd be willing to share, would you?" In Harry's headshake, she asked, still grinning, "So what did he send you this week? Pants?" Harry grinned back and nodded. "Yes, a pair in black and one each of dark, medium, and light gray. All are 100% wool with a one-time voice-activated hemming charm." "Hopefully it's a better charm than the last one I got," Dean interjected. "My pants ended up 3 inches too short." "Shut up, Dean," Ginny said and punched the boy in the arm. Steve exclaimed his innocent intentions, but Ginny talked right over him. "Don't listen to him, Harry. I'm sure the charms will work marvelously." Harry snorted at their antics and said, "I'm sure. I'm hoping that everything else that came with the hemming charm will also work marvelously." "Have you gotten a lot of pants?" Hermione asked as she buttered a piece of toast. "I've gotten a few. I only just started getting clothes this past week, ever since Dee sent those shirts. I thought I'd have been getting them all along, but there you go," Harry said with a shrug. "You haven't been getting clothes? Really?" Hermione asked in surprise. "I'd have figured that would be one of the most popular gifts." "I would have thought so too, but..." Harry trailed off with a shake of his head. "What kind of gifts have you gotten then?" Hermione asked curiously. "Jewelry, tea, books, music," Harry answered, ticking them off his fingers. "Like I said, I only started getting clothes this past week." "Is that what you were wearing over the weekends?" asked Parvati brightly. "I remember thinking that your clothes looked new. I loved that blue shirt you wore yesterday. And those tight jeans were absolutely yummy. A nice belt would really tie it together. Was the pendant you wore from one of your suitors too?" "Yes," Harry said, grinning at Parvati's enthusiasm over his wardrobe. "You don't think it was too odd, wearing a velvet shirt with jeans?" "No," Parvati said with a vigorous shake of her head. "It was perfect. You were just screaming casual elegance with a bit of naughtiness thrown in." "Naughtiness?" questioned Hermione, while Harry simply continued to grin. "Of course," Parvati said, looking at Hermione as if the answer was obvious. "He didn't have on any shoes or socks. It was very sexy." Hermione looked scandalized when the surrounding girls all nodded their agreement. "I hadn't noticed," she said tightly. "I was thinking of getting a toe ring," Harry said, still grinning, and watched as Hermione's face became even more scandalized. Oh, how he loved stirring the pot. "I was worried that I'd have problems with my shoes, though." "Ooh, that would have been perfect," Parvati cooed out. "Lilith has a nice selection," Lavender offered helpfully as she poured another cup of pumpkin juice for herself and Parvati. "You can get flat ones that don't interfere with shoes, or you can get fancy ones that will. Some of the fancy ones have spells on them to make them flat whenever you want, but those are more expensive." "Oh, do you know this how?" Hermione asked a bit shrilly. "I have nice long toes," Lavender said somewhat indignantly. "Just like Harry, except Harry has bigger feet. He's a boy, you know." Hermione stared at Lavender blankly for a moment as the other girls giggled, then stiffly picked up her utensils. "I'm going to eat breakfast now." Harry snickered and joined her.